and others. We are still staying with flooding. Nigeria communities struggles amid rising waters. Nigerians protests, demand carry sack as fierce scarcity persists. Let's take one more. We have Naira trades at about 1,640 Naira as dollar scarcity hits black markets. And so much to talk about. We also see no more special promotion for police officers, and that's credited to the PSC boss. No more special promotion. Go through, follow merit, and follow the process. Well, that's the much we can be. That's much will be taken today on the paper review. You can do yourself some favor, get the online version of it. Just take out time, read through, keep yourself abreast with what is happening around the nation. You can't afford to be ignorant at this time of our nation process. Welcome to today. We'll be looking at your personal finance. We'll be looking at that. How can you master your finances? Personal finance mastery. You know how we looked at it last week, and we're taking it further. We looked at collaboration last week, but today we're taking it further. We're looking at how to master your personal finance and how to bridge the gap between your mind and your money. I humorously saw a post sometime on Facebook where somebody said that how can he translate the money in his mind to his account. If you are interested on how to download those thoughts, those millions on your head, those millions in your subconscious, in your mind, if you want it to translate into real and tangible account balance, then you have to shut out every distraction and watch the program. We have a specialist in the house this afternoon with years of experience, track record to actually buttress what is going to be speaking at. We're looking at personal finance, bridging the gap between your mind and your finances. He has authored so many books, and just latest of his book is The Money Devotion, and I think it's a book you must get because it is making a whole lot of waves. Because now you just have to be serious about your finances. It's no other person than Mr. Osayi Tres Omokaro. Mr. Osayi, good afternoon this afternoon.
Thank you, sir.
Can I say happy mommy, good mommy devotion? not money now, but the normal money, MOR, but money, finance, cash. Now it seems everybody at this point needs to now be interested, or seems to be interested when it comes to the issue of finance, because the economy will have to force you to be interested. Yeah. Now let's look at what somebody said the other time, which I saw very humorous. How do I download the money in my mind, the money in my head? How do I download it and transfer it to my personal account and start spending out of it? I think that's the reason why you are here, and we really want to actually know. Please give us an overview on how our viewers out there can download the money in their mind, in their brains, in their subconscious, and translate it into their bank account.
All right, thank you very much. I count this a very rare privilege to be sharing my thoughts. You know, at some points I began to look at it. I have born, bred, and I grew up in this country, and I see how difficult things are going, you know. But the truth is, as much as things are getting difficult, I realize that a lot of us are still not very intentional as to how we engage with our finances. There's this mindlessness as to how we engage with our finance, because the truth is, you came into this world from birth as an expense. So
on somebody else's book.
You came in as an expense. So on a regular basis, expense is always going out to keep you alive. You know, but if you are not intentional about earning, if you are not intentional about saving, if you are not intentional about investing and managing, meanwhile expense is irregular, you're going to find out that at some point you're going to get into some kind of pressure. You know, so that's where some of us has got into, to the extent that we now have what I would title robotic engagement with finance. Because sometimes you look at yourself, you think that your decision as it relates to money are are your decision. But I've come to the conclusion that life in itself is a journey in consistent program. You have been programmed to take the actions that you take as it relates to your finance. You say, oh, but when did that start? Your programming, your financial mindset started from childbirth. The people who took care of you at childbirth, the schools you attend, the environment you grow up in. If you notice, without any intentionality, you think like everybody around you. So until you become intentional to begin to take actions, to take steps, you just see that you practically will produce the result that is dominant in your environment.
And often at times this result is not so
good. What we would have loved to have. So I decided to begin to work on this program I titled Mind Your Money. It's just my own way of drawing people's attention to paying mindful attention to their finances. So that's what led me to authoring that book titled Money Devotion. The idea behind that is that if we give daily attention, 10-15 minutes every day to thinking and acting about any aspect of your finance, you're going to see that you're beginning to rewire. One good thing about our brain is the fact that our brain is a programmable machine. Anytime, in fact, my mentor will use words like, you were never born poor or rich. You were born human. So your environment taught you poverty. So you reproduce poverty by default. So when you want to change into wealth, you need to alter your environment. And when we talk about environment, we mean both physical and mental environments. You want to know the dominant environments in your life today, just pick your phone and check your phone. You see, where do you go to when you pick your phone? What are the things you engage with? I think my goal in this conversation is to just help people know that for every action you take, you're training your mind. You're training your mind. So if you want to be able to pull out that desire, it's possible to desire wealth but behave poverty. And your life will reproduce your behavior, not what you desire. So it's not enough to desire, but what are the routines in your life? Because your daily routine is producing the outcome. So it's simple, but it's not easy. It's simple to understand. It's just like 1 + 1 is 2. Yes, one of the routines I would say, for instance, that savings is very important. The knowledge is very simple, but how easy it is to implement. That's where all of these challenges are, that we must make some attempts to deal with them today.
Yeah, before we go talk about some of these routines, I want us to look at this concept of scarcity. Now, number one, like you said, we didn't choose the family to be born into. We didn't choose the environment to be raised in. And a lot of persons were raised in an environment of scarcity, and this scarcity moved from the environment into the mind. Now, what are some of these strategies to shift from a mindset of scarcity into the mindset of abundance, to the mindset of overflow? Because a friend of mine told me how he traveled to outside this country, and he got to the country, and when he got there, the first thing he was thinking was how to quickly iron his clothes so that they will not take light, so that the power will not go off. So the first thing he was thinking was, okay, I need to iron my clothes, so that, because he is coming from an environment where it is certain that NEPA or power must go off, and the person he was meeting said, no, relax, over here power do not go off. So he has been conditioned for scarcity. So how then should an individual, it's not our fault where we're born, it's not our fault where we're bred, how do we now transit from that scarcity environment, scarcity mindset, into abundance?
Yeah, first, you can't change what you do not identify that exists. So I'm sure as you're listening, as you're watching, you're getting to realize, oh, this is. So once you identify it, that's why in my book, I think the very first day of that book, I talked about identifying your money mindset. You know, so once you identify the mindset you picked based on the environment you were raised, once you identify that mindset, then you ask yourself, has this mindset worked for my good? Because you're going to realize that either you have attracted that scarcity mindset or you have attracted abundant mindset. And one of the way abundance express itself is in giving. It's in giving. So, and the bad thing is that when you teach a poor man about giving, the poor man fights. You see it? Because the first thing he's going to tell you is, I don't have enough. People should give to me. But even when we go back to the Bible said, give and it shall be given unto us. Yes, I understand that some religious leaders may have abused this, but the abuse does not stop the use. Abuse does not stop the use. And my own opinion is that give doesn't necessarily mean give to church. It's one of those places you should give to. But giving in itself expands you, the giver. You know, so it's one way you can break away from scarcity mentality, because whatsoever you are able to give, your mind records you to be bigger than. You know, so when you live a life where all you're thinking about is that people should keep giving to you, you are getting smaller. So if you want to expand, you must learn to look for causes to give to. Contribution is what makes you big. So that's one thing. And the second thing, that you want to alter your circle. You want to alter the people you engage with. Yes, I've heard that comment that will say your network equals to your net worth.
Correct.
But I want to reverse it. Your net worth, which I would call self-worth, will determine your network, and your network will amplify your self-worth.
I think we should go over that again. Your self-worth.
Your self-worth will determine your network, and that network will then amplify your self-worth.
Powerful. Wow.
The reason why some persons cannot even mingle with some set of people is because they feel less of themselves. You know, so when you have a mindset that, see, a lot of times it's unfortunate that we turn church to a religious body. For me, church is a place where we should be taught on how to master our God-likeness. God-likeness, when you think like your father, when you think creatively, when you see a problem, you think, I am one of those that should solve this problem.
You know, that's some other person's.
Yes, that's a giving mindset. So you can imagine someone who tackles life from that perspective. When that person is in anywhere, is always thinking of, what can I give to make this place a better place? So he will not find himself among those complaining. Instead, when people are complaining, he's looking at, oh, this is an opportunity. You see, so when you work with that mindset, you are getting bigger. So because of that self-worth, you will attract some caliber of persons. Those caliber of persons that you begin to mingle with will then amplify. You know, so it's not you trying to build network and running after people. If you are a person of value, some networks will attract you.
Wow.
And that will alter your thoughts, that will alter your mindset, and of course, the more you are able to give, of course, we know what that means, the more you receive.
All right, now let's look at certain psychological barriers, because from what you are speaking now, we have taken it from more from away from the physical. We're looking at the psychological. Now let's look at the psychological barriers. There are some persons, they say, I want to do this, I want to. Physical desire, physical will is there, but there are psychological barriers that are preventing these people from actually achieving this financial mastery. What are some of these psychological barriers? And don't just tell us the barriers. How should I overcome this barrier? Because there's somebody watching us now from Upper Sakomba. There's somebody watching us probably from Ewohimi, Uromi. And the person is saying there are psychological barriers. I feel there are some things inhibiting my latent potential of becoming the best I can be. How should I identify these barriers? And what should I do to overcome these barriers?
Yeah, okay. There are things we call limiting beliefs. The first amongst them is that self-worth. You know, and sometimes words that we have heard as children, as buttes, that's self-worth, then limiting beliefs that we picked even from our parents. I remember growing up, almost everything you want to do, you hear words like, okay, let me look for where to borrow money to do it. We hear that a lot from our parents because it's their own way of wanting to tell us that the money is not easy.
It's not easy.
That in itself makes you believe that for you to achieve anything great, you need to go and borrow. That's a psychology, that's a mindset that if you don't intentionally deal with it, it will linger with you. You hear words like money don't grow on trees. Let me tell you one very popular one: work hard to make money.
Shouldn't the individual work hard?
As good as that sounds, don't see your mind do not want anything difficult. We should not attach it. To be frank, the real mindset that we attract the wealth that we are talking about is that mindset that knows that wealth is in limitless availability. I don't need to work hard. I just need to know myself, identify my skills and potentials, and next them and turn them into product and services, and the world will get to come to it.
As simple as this may sound.
As simple as it is not easy. But once you begin to work at it, recently I was with a friend of mine who is a very powerful artist. He did a particular artwork in less than 3 hours. And the wife said, honey, for you to do this work before now, it takes you days. What happens? Mastery over time. You see it? So it may be difficult at the beginning. But when you give like for instance, I'm here just talking. I don't need to prepare to come for this class. What I'm saying now is something I practice, is the life I live. If you pull me out of here and pull me into another session for another 1 hour to talk about business, I don't need to think. It's become part of me. But it took me years to be here, and I paid the price. One of the challenge we have is that people are not ready to pay the price for what they truly desire. See, your environment programmed you. And now you know that I need to overcome these psychological barriers. But there are routines you must create. And the bad thing is that when you are creating those routines, your old routines will fight. So how daring are you? How much are you ready to fight the old routine? I started to write a book yesterday. I'm saying it for the first time. Mastering your attention.
I think that book needs to come out as soon as
mastering your attention, because that's where
that's
the
battle. Because that's the battleground.
Yeah,
attention, focus.
The battle is. That's where the battle is. So if you can take your attention and plunge it into the psychological battle that you have, and fight the old routine, because everything that distracts you looks good,
obviously.
So you in fact you cannot be distracted. You decide to be distracted, because when this other thing pops up, that's why in my phone now almost all my apps they can't send me notification. None of them, apart from I think my email for business sake and possibly my banking app. Every other one you can't send me notification. I will go there when I want to. So if I'm there, I know I'm there intentionally. So we must become intentional about fighting the psychological battle that is fighting against our financial liberation.
All right, now let's begin to build on these financial habits, because you started on that trajectory, but I needed us to build up to that. Now we have seen there are barriers, we have seen there are challenges. Now you've taught us what we should do. Now let's talk about how do we now consciously build a daily habit that can then help us bridge the gap between our financial goals and our actual realities. Now, because like you said these things are simple, but they are not easy. So how should we now build our daily routine? Because you talked about your book Money Devotion. How do we then build a daily routine around these intentional habits and see ourselves coming out of this financial deficit?
Okay, that was exactly what I thought about that led to me writing that book. I know that as time is going, our attention span is dropping. So I didn't want to just write a book that people will need to take and read. So I rather decided to write a book that we can spend 10 to 15 minutes with every day. And each day, each chapter of that book is talking about one aspect of your personal finance. It could be budgeting, it could be mindset, it could be spending, it could be investing, all of those habits. So a daily dose of that book, Money Devotion, is one way to go about it. Because truth is, just like I already said, every human being have 5 engagements with finance. You are either thinking of earning, and a lot of us have not done a great job as it comes to our earning. You only earn money in 2 ways. Every way you earn money can be categorized into 2. Either you're working for somebody or you're building a business. And whichever one you choose doesn't make you less. I think we need to balance that, because there's a narrative there that says that you need to be a business person to be successful. Oh, you cannot attain success working for somebody. You may not be an entrepreneur, but you have to be entrepreneurial. How do I mean? You need to have the mindset of an entrepreneur, even though you are not an entrepreneur owning your business. What is the mindset of an entrepreneur? Problem solving. Problem solving. You see a problem, you see yourself as one of those who should solve it. Once you have that mindset, even in the workplace, you see that your promotion will be very rapid. And once your promotion is rapid, your earning capacity increases.
Sure.
Then when it comes to spending, we don't pay attention to our spending. A lot of our spending habit is robotic. There's what I found that they call it anchoring effect. Do you know, when you hear this phone, it used to be 300,000, but sales is going for 150,000. Your mind anchors 300,000 and tells you are saving 150,000. You go and buy. The original price may have just be 160. They only remove 10,000, but they anchored your mind. So that decision, you will think, I took the decision. No, somebody ignited it. So we have to become intentional even in our spending. And one of the habits you must imbibe to become intentional in your spending is budgeting. What is budgeting? Giving your money direction even before it comes, as opposed to explaining where the money went
after it's gone.
A lot of us find ourselves explaining.
Yeah. So
recently something happened to me. I had reason to download my personal banking statement. When I downloaded it, I saw the money that I flowed through my account. I said, wow. A lot of us don't even know. So some of us are eating that duplex that we are dreaming of. The duplex, God has released it, but we squandered it. So because of lack of intentionality. And most of us only engage in those 2 things, earning and spending. The third one, which is saving. The 4th, which is investing. And the 5th, which is that general financial management. We don't even go there at all.
So it seems to be a masterclass.
Yeah. So the people that spend time with all of that are the ones ruling all of us. They are the ones igniting the anchoring effect, igniting the issue of fear and greed, when it comes to investment and all of that. So it all boils down to intentionality.
Now let's look at the anchoring effects. Now, if you see the price used to be 300, now it is 160. Okay, my mind is saying 140 is safe. Now, if I don't buy that phone at that time, I'll feel guilty. All right, everybody's getting it. Well, why? I can afford it. I don't have 170 in my account. I can just pull in 160 and buy the phone, and I have saved. Now, let's look at being intentional with our emotions. Like somebody said sometimes back, when you have money a whole lot of wares, articles become attractive. You start seeing those shoes that you know, if you didn't have the money, you would have been blinded and oblivious to that shoe. You would have been oblivious to that dress, that fancy things. Now let's look at managing my emotion. I now have the money. I want to manage my emotion, manage the guilt trip that comes with not buying that particular product, engaging my savings. So how should we begin to, I want you to give us practical tips, practical insights. How should I see the words beautiful, but I think this money should be more beautiful being kept somewhere for something better? Emotional intelligence.
All right, there is what is called I think it's reticular activating system, RAS, in our mind. It's like when you tell yourself, I want to buy this particular car. That thing is spiked up and you begin to see that car everywhere. The same thing happens when you have that amount of money. Everything the money can buy begins to flash at you. One simple strategy to managing it, for instance, is if you have automated your savings, for instance, and automate your savings to an account that you don't have immediate access to. If it is even possible, automate your savings to an investment account. That is where the knowledge about investment needs to come in first. Because the truth is, you don't just save for saving's sake. There is what is called emergency fund. Yes, you could be saving for the sake of an emergency. But if you are saving for the sake of investment, automate your saving. When that 300,000 enters your account and it is automated for 30% to live, your mind will never show you. You are allowed to even show you 300,000 came there, but the next time you check, about 60,000 is out. So you are thinking of 240. If there's an automation that automates your spending, at the end, you know what is called your disposable income. The psychological effect of just having that amount there and telling yourself, yes, let me spend first, I will save later. There's the dictionary definition for saving is that saving is the money you keep after all expenses have been made. When you are done with all the expense, no money is left. So imagine if we just tweak that definition to be that savings is the money you keep before all other expenses. That automation in itself will reduce those pressures for you. Then if you just live a life of budgeting, if you live a life, the issue about personal finance is that it's really not about money. Personal finance is more personal than it's about finance.
But we concentrate on the finance.
Yes, we concentrate on the finance, forgetting the driver. So you are the driver. So the focus is on you. The focus is on what is going on within me as it relates to my finance. That is what we intend to achieve by the Mind Your Money program, the money devotion, is to make you the driver. See, they said money can take you anywhere, but it will not replace you as the driver. Just like your car can take you anywhere, but your car will require you to drive and give it direction. So when your money do not get direction from you, your money will lead you astray. That's one bad thing about money. That's why you hear quotes like, money is better as a servant than as a leader. So our work here is helping you become the driver, sit at the driver's seat of your finance. So it's personal finance, but the focus is on the person than the finance.
All right. In your day 12, you talked about financial education, which seems to be lacking in our mainstream education. We don't talk about. We can teach you about agriculture. We can teach you about your body. We can teach you about the home cutleries. We can teach you about the various functions of the father, the mother. But the issue of financial education is not in our mainstream education, and it also seems to be that a lot of persons are not paying attention. In day 12, you talked about financial education. What is personal financial education, and how should an individual be deliberate about his financial education? Because I think these are the root cause. These are the core of the matter, and we need to actually address this root cause. personal financial education?
Yeah, two very important things that we need to learn that we are not learning in our educational sector is parenting and financial education. But for the focus of this conversation, let's look at financial education. Where we all make mistakes is that just like when you give birth to a child, you automatically become a parent. Nobody cares whether you had a certificate to parent the child. The same way, when you grow and you get to the age of having to leave your parents to begin to take care of yourself, you are thrown into
the
wide world of financial mastery. But you were never educated. But the challenge here is that when you now want to do things about your finance, we are looking for something quick. The truth is, let's go back to the history of education. The people who funded education at the beginning were capitalists who needed people to work for them. So they funded a system to raise people to come work for them. So that system cannot teach you like the king that wants you to come work for them. That's why financial education now has to be personal. You now have to drive it. But the amazing thing is that it's expensive, but it pays itself. One of the things I realize is that knowledge is the only asset that creates other assets. But we rather want to go for assets and not want to learn about the knowledge that will create those assets or sustain them. Somebody reached out to me recently, said, I have 100,000. Can you guide me on where to invest it in? I said, take that 100,000, buy books, buy courses, and invest it in you. You know why? Because the decisions on investment will be taken by you. If you are not enlightened enough to take decisions, you will always look for me to guide you. When you look for me to guide you and I charge you half of that money, or even all of that money may not even be able to pay for my service, so you will never invest. Why not take that money and invest it in your own education? And when we want to begin to invest in financial education, for those of us who are already old, we are no longer within the space where our parents can guide us. We need to commit to 1, 2, 3 years of financial education.
I think that time tag is very, very important.
That is where the issue is. Yeah. Because the truth is, this is 2024. If you think, let me master my finance, and by 2026 I know where I am, by 2027 I know where I am. If you refuse, 2027 will meet you, you'll still be financially illiterate. You see it? So, because when I want to become a doctor, I go to the medical school. Doctors speak to me. For 4 to 5 years, I go for housemanship. I do practice. After that, I have a certificate. When I want to become a nurse, I go through the process. When I want to study business administration, I go through the process. How come I want my finances to take a new turn? I want to attend one church service. I want to attend one seminar. I want to attend one training, and that will fix it. It doesn't work. You know, because it's not just because the battle that you need to deal with took years to be built. So you need to give in that time, starting from what you do every day. Starting from what you do every day and implementing the knowledge. And when you learn, don't wait to say I will implement later. Begin to implement, because every action you take creates neurons in your brain. That is the real learning. Learning is not information gathering. Learning is what happens after practice, and your brain records the process.
So the point where the rubber hits the ground, where you are now putting what you have learned into practice.
Action.
So after that point is
the
when
the brain records it. And once the goal of learning is automation. Once you learn and act, your brain can now reproduce those things.
Correct.
Just like you learned how to drive. So when you are driving now, you could be thinking of your wife, you could be thinking of your children, but you are driving. But when you started learning, when you want to apply your gear, you will look at it So now it has gone into your subconsciousness. So wealth education also need to come into your consciousness.
All right.
And you begin to reproduce.
Powerful. I think you'll be learning a thing or two from our conversation. As we begin to round up, I want to hear your personal story, because at this point, when we're in school, our lecturers can teach you big grammar and they make an example. At the end of the day, after the class, you forget what the lecturer said. You will remember the example after 10 years. That's the example the lecturer made. Now let's come to the area of specificity and example. Now, share with us a personal experience where there was a mindset shift that led to a significant change in your financial situation. At what point? What was the shifting?
Okay. The year 2000, during COVID, I saw a coach online advertising a particular program. He invited us into a webinar. In that webinar, coincidentally, I joined that webinar with my wife. We watched it, and he gave an offer to join his 6 weeks class. While myself and my wife watched it, my wife said, "Oni, I think you need to be in that class." I wanted to be, but I think the price for that class, I couldn't even afford it. But I now saw that there was a sales strategy they were using that says pay a certain percentage. Because it's a 6 weeks class,
you must
pay a certain percentage and pay the rest within the 6 weeks. I jumped at it. In that class,
how much was it? I don't know if you like to share that.
It was 200,000.
Because a lot of persons may want to.
You can imagine, as at 2020, 200,000 was big,
and it was a COVID period.
COVID period, meaning it was virtual. So I eventually initiated my first payment, then I paid the rest within the period. And the person who was teaching us said his goal for everybody who attends this class is to earn 2 million naira at the end of that 6 weeks. A lot shifted in my mind.
Wow.
Within that 6 period.
Wow.
Within that 6 period, I earned over 300% of that man's target.
What is 300%?
No, let our viewer do some mathematics.
No, let's not stress.
Let them do some mathematics.
Okay,
because
he said 2 million.
Yes.
Okay,
300%. Over 300%.
Okay,
so you can do the math.
Okay, so I will not hold you along the way.
You understand.
Go ahead.
And within that period, I began to see myself differently. I said something about your self-worth, attracting your network and your network multiplying your self-worth. I remember I could summon the courage to get into an office that was 7-figure a year. That's an amount I can't even dream of. So since then, I have not gone back. I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday. I said, in just 1 month, I spent over close to 1.5 million on my personal education.
Powerful.
In the last 1 month. So it's a continuous journey, and as you keep doing that, just keep getting better. All
right, that's the voice of Mr. Tres Osayi Omokaro. Before we actually let you go, I think we have a minute or two to spare. Now, you said a 1.something million in few. A beginner could say, I don't have that money. The best I have is 20,000. I have 10,000. I even have 5,000 naira. Now let's look at your advice, because I want you to look at our viewers. It needs to be eyeball to eyeball, fuska to fuska. You need to look at our viewers out there and address advice for our beginners. What advice would you give to someone just starting their journey towards financial mastery? What should they be doing in this point in time, in a minute or less?
Desire is powerful. I told you I couldn't afford that class, but I ended up finding myself in that class. Desire. Your desire will put you in rooms that your finances may not be able to put you. And act on your desire.
Desires and action fused together certainly will take us from where we are. Download the money from your mind and put it in your bank account. I trust you have been able to learn a thing or two from our coach here, Mr. Tres Osayi Omokaro, and he has been able to speak brilliantly, and not just that, he was calm in conveying this information to you. I hope you learned a thing or two. We're going to be doing this again next week, and it's going to be stepping it higher, but it is all about you. That's where our emphasis is on this program, Business Today on Edo Broadcasting Service Reloaded. Join us again same time next week. We will come with another wonderful edition. My name remains Uncommon Emmanuel, saying to you today, become intentional about your finances. Have a wonderful day ahead already. Bye for now.
Never again! Community leaders will control our market. So the traders want to partner with government.
Yes!
The traders want to control the market. Whosoever is giving them backing to oppress the poor masses, we shall expose that person from Benin to Abuja.